Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast here in familiar territory, good old Western Kentucky, my stomping grounds, my homeland, so to speak. And excited about today's guest. I'll tell you what, I'll just let you guys introduce yourself and the name of your company, maybe a little bit about what you do or your title, that kind of thing.
All righty. My name's Marc Hampton. I'm the general manager here at Weaver Portable Buildings.
All right.
My name's John Weaver. I'm the owner of Weaver Portable Buildings.
And we're in, let's see, is it Elkton? Is that where we're at? Or we're close to Hoptown. We're close to Hopkinsville.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes from Hopkinsville and 10 minutes from Elkton and 20 minutes from Clarksville, and used to be an hour from Nashville, but it's 2 hours now.
Yeah. I promise you, if they do not put at least a minimum of 3 lanes in between Clarksville and Nashville, it is just asking for disaster through there. It's 100 miles. It's like the Autobahn through there. Yeah, definitely. So for those of you who haven't been in this territory, or if you have, one thing you might recognize about being through here, well, is 2 things. First, one that came a long time ago was we're really close to the statue here, the Jefferson Davis Memorial. And for those of you who haven't seen that, it's a smaller version of the George Washington Memorial in Washington, D.C. Jefferson Davis, being the first and only president of the Confederate States, was born right here, a baseball throw away from where we are. And I guess that's your history lesson for today, which is kind of cool. But what Weaver's done is they've competed with them now, right, John? So
That's right. That's right.
What'd you do to get the attention of the passerbys?
Well, we used a water tank for the base of my sign, and you go up 20 foot, and we have this building on top.
So there's literally a shed sitting on top of a water tower base.
Yep. We put 72 ton of concrete around the base.
Oh, wow. And then there's you told me when people stop by and see the Jefferson Davis Memorial, you've got a surprise for them if they come over here, because you tell them, hey, you can go, we've got a pathway right up to our shed and we'll charge you half price, right?
Yeah. So on the inside of this water pipe, there's a stairway that takes you to the top. So we, of course, get a lot of attention from people stopping in or whatever, and they all say something about it. And my joke is always that we charge half the rate of what the monument does.
You can go up in the shed instead of going up in the monument. I love it. It's an eye catcher. It's brilliant. First time I drove through here, I saw it. I was rubbernecking, and I was like, that's just genius. I mean, that's a lot of people don't even have a sign out that says, hey, we sell storage sheds. You guys put a shed on the sign out front.
Well, believe it or not, but we have people that come from 2 hours away, and they say their son or somebody they know drives a truck, and, you know, they came by and they seen that, and they knew that's the place they want to go to, right?
That's all you got to tell them. You'll know it when you see it. There's a big building up in the air on a sign. Can't miss it. Turn in the driveway there. Can you walk up in that? You said you can get in the stairwell. Can you actually move around in the shed?
Oh, yeah.
Can you really? Mm-hmm. How about that? That's pretty neat. We'll take some pictures of it for those that watch on YouTube. We'll take some pictures and throw some up. But very cool. Awesome marketing, ability to put your sheds out there and brand. I wish every shed, and I've seen some of them put sheds on top of other sheds and things like that. But that's truly unique and pretty cool. So tell me a little bit about Weaver Portable Buildings. Weaver's a pretty common name. Gets around in the shed industry some. You guys are here in Western Kentucky. I don't know. Maybe there's some guys around here that's got some connection somehow to the industry. But do you guys just wake up one day and say, hey, I want to build some sheds, or how'd it come together?
Well, I guess I'll answer that. But, my dad was in construction all his life, so he had a pretty decent-sized shop, and we started out manufacturing for someone else. And eventually, as he sold the business to me, and I bought out who we were manufacturing for, and that's how we got started.
So this was around what year?
2014, 2015, something like that.
So yeah, got a little bit of time in it. Got to see some of the pre-COVID rush, the COVID rush, and now the post-COVID.
Right.
And gosh, that's a mouthful right there. Just kind of trying to navigate through all three of those sectors. But it seems like we're a little bit back to normal.
I'd say so. Yeah.
We're not quite seeing the influx. Marc, your position, and you said it, but would you say again your role technically here?
So I'm the general manager here, and I'm just John's right-hand man. I handle sales on our lot out here, order supplies, handle all the website marketing type stuff, dealer interactions, and just whatever else needs to be done.
A little bit of jack of all trades.
Yep, jack of all trades.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs a utility guy taking care of a little bit of everything. Right. A lot of stuff falls through the cracks if not. Hey guys, this is the Shed Geek, and I'm here to tell you about the latest in financial innovation to hit the shed industry. It's a program called Backyard Finance. Everywhere I go, shed manufacturers and shed sellers are always asking, how can I get a better payment option for my customer? At Backyard Finance, they're making this a reality. You might be asking, how do I sign up? Simple, just go to Backyard Finance, click on the Get Started Now button, and create an account. After that, you'll have 200 plus banks competing to give your customer the best financial terms possible. With Backyard Finance, you can service your customers two ways, direct to customer lending or direct to merchant lending. With direct to merchant lending, simply fill out an application. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks to process that application, but it'll allow you a variety of financing options to make you a more competitive retailer. With FICO scores as low as 500, 600, or 700 plus, your customers will receive financing options with APRs as low as 2.99% or as high as 29.99%. Credit applications are approved in just 15 to 45 seconds. To know more, contact Backyard Finance at 833-692-2286 or email info@backyardfinance.com today. Backyard Finance, funding backyard dreams. So you guys are in Western Kentucky, huge shed influence here. Influence might not be the right word. Presence, I think, is what I'm going for. Presence. There's lots of companies, but you're really in an area where you have potential for really good growth, and you
Absolutely.
guys are in growth mode. You were telling me, John, a little bit about Todd County. Outside of hearing about the tornado warnings that come through.
Yeah, well, I tell people my building's still on top of my poles. So,
that's right. Did you guys get? Were you in the Mayfield path, or were you the one that went a little farther south? But you probably got a lot of wind off of it either way.
I can't remember if we were in the Mayfield path or not.
I think it went a little north.
It went north. The one that got Pembroke, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Past.
That's right.
Probably about a mile and a half past us.
Yeah.
And then built back up and hit Bowling Green.
Yeah.
It came through.
Same night as the other, and really not a good memorable way for a lot of people, but pretty wild. Still on top of the sign, so it says something about quality, doesn't it? What's sort of your thoughts? You were talking about Todd County has had like a large manufacturer come in.
They did. They had Navella's come in here a year or two ago, which is probably the biggest manufacturer Todd County's ever had, or employer they've ever had. Navella's would be a sister company to Local Aluminum, and Marc here knows a little bit more what they do, but it's got something to do with melting aluminum down and putting it back into car parts. So when they moved in, right now, 2 years later, you look at Todd County and just the Elkton area, housing's blowing off the charts. I mean, they're in a panic because they got to upgrade their sewer, they got to upgrade their water, and they're doing zoning and planning for the whole county. And then on top of that, you got Kentucky, which is going to a zero income tax state. They've already done 2 different sets of legislation to bring it down from 5, I think, to 4, and their next goal is 2, and then by 2025, they're shooting for 0. So when that happens, I think you'll see the floodgates from Clarksville open up into Kentucky, That may be true for anywhere that Kentucky borders Tennessee, but you look at the Nashville, Clarksville area where they're both grown together and they're so pressurized and bottlenecked, you'll see that burst up into Kentucky for sure.
Well, I think you'll see some of that from the Illinois exodus too, down south where we are. Definitely, because Paducah is 5 minutes away from me, but I live technically, as a crow flies, we live farther south than the majority of the people in Kentucky, and I think several in North Carolina. But we're still Yankees. We're still technically in that Illinois category. But yeah, I mean, we would have moved there for the income tax purpose. When you get to that extreme Western Kentucky side of the state over here, where Kentucky and Tennessee meet, Illinois, almost parts of southwestern Indianapolis, or Indiana, but then you can be over in Missouri fairly quick, and almost down to Arkansas really quick, and Tennessee's always had that growth trajectory and potential because of the income tax, higher retail tax, of course, if you're selling sheds, but the lower income tax is certainly in the driver's seat to want to bring people there. So Kentucky really making moves, and they're going to win on those border states from the north for sure.
Well, even if you move further east to Bowling Green or Scottsville, Kentucky, I mean, that's blowing off the charts too. Franklin, Kentucky shut all their zoning down for a brief period till they figured out what they're going to do because everything's infrastructure's maxed out.
Wow.
Bowling Green has all kinds of new factories coming in. We did a project for a guy in Scottsville that's putting in this big recreational park. Because if you go camping, you can't get in anywhere, right?
Right.
So they put in this big recreational park, and that fella does that type of thing, builds subdivisions and stuff. And he told me that the judge in Bowling Green told him that they need 2,500 new homes in Bowling Green by December.
Oh, wow.
So you're not just seeing that type of growth in Bowling Green. It's all the way along the Tennessee border down here.
Yeah, well, I've got a sister that lives in Bowling Green. Just seems like every time we go down there, it's growing like crazy. And really, Nashville's growing like wild too. So you take that trifecta there of Bowling Green and Clarksville and Nashville, and there's just lots of new homes mean good things for shed builders, right?
Right.
I mean, somebody needs storage somewhere. So do you guys move out beyond the traditional storage? I mean, into other areas like pole barns or play sets, or have you said, you know what, we're going to focus, in these early stages of really hammering out good products? Do you kind of, focus on price, focus on quality? What's sort of been your thought process going into this?
Well, all of those, plus the big one being unique, if it's not portable, we're not interested. So
gotcha.
Pole barns would not be one of those.
Yep.
So yeah, horse barns, anything unique.
I mean, it says portable on your shirt, right? We're right. Weaver, portable. So, there's kind of this growing market that says, where do we stop as a shed manufacturer and where do we begin in other things? But sometimes the focus of just, hey, let's make sure we put out a good quality product. Let's make sure that we're servicing our customers the right way. We talked a little bit early on about being in this weird transition that's pretty much common between brick and mortar and then having like an online presence, right. Then not having like a complete online presence, being able to serve multiple markets. People like to be able to sit down and look at you build a shed out on a 3D configurator, maybe necessarily, but, they might not want to do it themselves. So, you really take service to a whole new level. What's sort of been like your message to your customer? So if your customer says, hey, we were thinking about looking at Weaver, we want to check out your website, we might want to shop with you. What do you hope to tell them, Mark? What you're seeing these people come in all the time in sales. What's kind of your, I don't want to say your approach, your secret sauce or anything, but just curious. Looking to grow your shed business this year? Say goodbye to the struggle of day-to-day management. Shed Suite has you covered. With Shed Suite, you'll get access to a full e-commerce suite for your shed business. That includes customizable dealer websites, real-time inventory management, streamlined quote and order flow, and robust analytics and reporting. What's more, Shed Suite was designed specifically for shed manufacturers and dealers by experienced shed builders just like you. With low-cost merchant accounts and integrated payments, Shed Suite makes selling sheds a total breeze. Ready to get started? Our team is excited to help you grow your shed business through 2023 and beyond. If you're looking to scale up and automate your shed business, book a demo now at shedsuite.com. Are you coming to this year's Shed Builder Expo at the Knoxville Convention Center on September 27th and 28th? If so, be sure to stop by the Shed Suite booth and meet our friendly team and get an in-person demo of the Shed Suite platform. And don't forget to enter to win some incredible giveaways. We'll see you there.
I guess you could call it just customer satisfaction. We're going to try to do whatever we can do to get them as close to what they want as we possibly can. Some things we can do, some things we can't, and I think, if you're transparent with somebody, let them know up front, yes, we can do X, Y, Z, but this one over here, we're just not going to be able to do for you. So people respect that. And just contacting people, just returning phone calls makes a big difference in our sales, just being available.
You think there's a lot of people that miss out on potential sales for that very reason, just communication?
I know for a fact, because I have people that come in here and they're like, hey, we're buying our building from you because you actually answered the phone when we called, or, when we walked in the office, there was somebody in the office, when we called you, you called us right back, so I've ran into that quite a bit to where I didn't do anything really out of the ordinary. I just returned phone calls, or I just happened to be here, answered an email, and that led to a sale, just being available.
It's kind of wild how, we talk a lot of times about the secrets, and I don't know that there's very many secrets that you could find in the shed industry. Really, the secret is what you do internally, what you do systematically through your processes, and building up your team, building up your, whether it's the manufacturing, the hauling, or the sales team, and really, you're selling a little bit of a similar product. You can probably put some spin on some uniqueness and things like that, and that's pretty cool. You guys see more stuff like that coming in the future? What do you feel like is going to come down the pipeline in the shed industry? Is it massive exodus from manufacturers? Is it more consignment, less consignment? Do you think we'll see, a transition in the hauling, or what's kind of your crystal ball tell you we're going to see in the future?
I think you'll see some customization or more, but I don't think that'll be the only thing you'll see.
What do you think's the thing to keep your eye on? Is it automation in the manufacturing side? You guys build here on site, but then you guys take care of a dealer network as well. Are you seeing like a call for more of a quicker manufacturing process where people want it quicker? They just want it now. They came in and say, hey, I'm ready to buy. I want the shed tomorrow. Or do you think that really setting back and focusing on something like customization is really the key? Both, maybe? I'm curious.
There'll be a fine mixture of all of those. We live in a fast-paced world, so everybody's going to want things quick. So, yeah, I think that's always a top priority in manufacturing anyway, to see how fast you can, make sure you got product rolling out and make sure you still got quality and you're hitting all those bullet points, Do
you guys take any kind of unique process to manufacturing? Do you feel like there's one way that works better than another? You've got bay workers out here and maybe that seems to work okay for you, or you started as a builder,
right? So
you probably know your way around building. I'm going to guess pretty good.
I do.
I
still build.
He still builds.
Do you really?
Yeah. People come in all the time looking for him. I'm like, oh, he's out in the shop building a barn.
You think it's just in your blood? What do you think it is?
Well, I'm a doer.
Okay.
So when you guys were talking earlier, I was listening in, and one of my pet peeves is when I go out with a delivery guy, I can look at a building and I can tell you in 3 seconds 10 different ways to set that building. And I go out with some of the other delivery guys who aren't, maybe the doer type or the quick thinking, and they, make a big deal out of a small thing, and so I can look at something and I can come up with 10 ways to take action on it pretty quick. So back to the sales conversation you were having, if there's a customer that comes in and there's something they want to see, nobody else can do it, I can give them my ear for 3 minutes and I can tell them whether I can do it or not.
You think that is something learned, like because of your early building experience, or do you think that's just something inherent to like who you are?
I've always been a nut on legs.
Really? Well, I would say there's probably room for that in each company. You see that with manufacturing nowadays. It's probably been said many times, and we beat that horse to death at some point. But there are a lot of guys that just prefer to build. Depending on I think a lot of these guys that take these personality tests, and you're starting to see a lot of that stuff go around and coaching and things like that. It's kind of trying to draw a conclusion of the personality of the person and where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. A lot of guys kind of fit that mold that say, hey, I just want to build sheds, like to build sheds. I didn't mean to get trapped into these conversations about CRMs and, websites and, SEO and all these different things. I just realized we built a product. Now we got to do something with it. What's been your unique experience in building? What's sort of what you've taken away from it as sort of professional in that specific thing? Do you think you guys really focus on jigs? Do you focus on, moving stuff out quickly? Do you say, hey, we need to keep an automated process? Are you on your guys to say, hey, whenever this thing hits the floor, we need studs on it? Do you take a more laid back approach? What do you feel like seems to work?
A fine balance.
Okay. And you drive that pretty well, I'm guessing.
I try to.
What makes someone good at that? Like being able to manage that team. I hear a lot of guys struggle with like labor. Yeah,
well, historically barn builders seem to follow that path of, having one builder build a building and then he gets paid a percentage or whatever. I threw that out the door a long time ago because I can manage people better when I can stick this person with that person. So I think that's my recipe for that.
A lot's got to do with personality.
Right.
I'm sure.
Hello, Shed Builder. With each new year, builders are searching for ways to increase efficiency and safety. Simply put, the Joey PIVOTLIFT is an investment into your building crew and your bottom dollar. Manufacturers are able to save hours and dollars by making painting, decking, and roofing a safer and quicker process. The Joey PIVOTLIFT turns 360 degrees inside of a 50-inch radius and lasts an average 8-hour workday before needing charged. It has a minimum platform height of 61.5 inches, allowing you to reach into areas with ease versus the traditionally used 6-foot ladder. No tripping or falling hazards exist, and no need to climb down and restock. For roofers, simply load your metal on the lift prior to getting started and throw your roofing screws into the built-in tool tray. Pricing is just $8,295 for the 60 series, $9,685 for the 70 series, and $10,675 for the roofing model. For exact pricing that includes tax and delivery to your door, contact the Shed Geek at info@shedgeek.com or dial 618-309-3648. We're raising building standards with Joey PIVOTLIFT.
Marc, switching gears on the sales side for yourself, sales has been a just all over the place road over the last 5 years. From what we saw in the initial incline and then these massive results, depletion of inventory, and now a slowing of the process. And this is making a bold statement for what I feel like I see countrywide or industry-wide, just a slowing. How do you combat that? What's the best way to come out of something like that when the industry's moving that way? Is it political? Can we solve it? What's your thoughts on all that?
So I've been at this 2 years now, so I didn't really get to see the pre-COVID and then the COVID. So I came in on the tail end of it. So I've seen the post-COVID, as you said. I would say that, just our ability to adapt to different customers, to different requirements that the customer wants. The fact that our process is streamlined, there's very little waste that comes out of this plant. John's very engaged in what goes on and what happens in this plant. If there's something that I have a question about, it's nothing for me to pick up the phone and call him or run out in the shop, find him. He don't like sitting in his office. He likes to be doing, and by doing that, that keeps the wheels moving forward. So, when it comes to customers, we use several different things. We do a little bit on Facebook, mostly Google. And then our other dealers, they do some of their own advertising too. I see us continuing to do well because it seems that the shift is, there's really no good way to predict it. And that's one thing we've had a lot of conversations, because this month we're going to be selling all tiny buildings, small buildings, 10 by 12s, 8 by 12s. And hey, maybe the next month we're selling 6 large buildings, 14 by 48s. There's really not a good way to gauge what we're going to be doing, in the future. So the tiny house movement is absolutely mind-blowing right now. The amount of people that are wanting to get into tiny homes. And, we've been able to to help with that, to make some of these people's dreams come true, with being flexible with what we can do for them.
John, do you think that movement, that tiny home movement, has to do with things like infrastructure, limited housing? Do you think that municipalities are willing or able to concede on some different things like international building codes or whatever that are necessary for you to consider it housing? Because we are seeing a housing shortage. And I think you see that in a lot of areas of growth, especially people leaving states that, are politically divided, and going to states that are more vision driven in their policies as a government rather than as a federal entity. Do you think it has a little bit more to do with things like that, or are we just seeing housing at an all-time high and it's a struggle for affordability? What drives that movement?
I was actually talking with a friend, and he had the statistics that he heard somebody talk about. So as far as people that do on-site construction, there's a lot of those 40 to 60-year-old, 70-year-old people that have been in construction that are fading out. And I think the ratio to contractors going out and new ones coming in was like 5-1. So, you might as well face it. Americans ain't going to be building. It's going to be Hispanics in the future.
You see so much of that now,
right? Already.
And what is that a testament of? Is that I'll pick on Americans here. Is it just a testimony to our laziness? Is it our high wages? Is it all of the above? You definitely see Hispanic crews come out in the carport industry as well too. You see a lot of Hispanic crews involved in shed building. What's the advantage? What's the purpose? Is it just because, I ask you a lot of questions. You can answer, pick any one of those out of the mix, and you just answer which one you want.
Well, I really don't have an answer for why. But I've always had this thing that, in the past when the economy wasn't so great, investors would, put trailer house parks in, cheap housing. Well, do the math nowadays, that's really not that cheap anymore. So I think that's where tiny homes could potentially have a good fit. If you could get somebody a home under $100,000, I know there's tiny home builders out there that are doing some very high-end stuff, and I'm sure there's room for that as well.
What seems to have happened in our area, correct me if I'm wrong, is tiny home was sort of fad movement, 160 square feet, sometimes on a chassis. But what we're really seeing that we call tiny home in our area is 640 square feet, 800 square feet, or sheds being put together as double wides minus plumbing because of municipalities and things that they've got to, overcome through inspection. But people are looking for affordable housing. They just might not be looking for 2,000 square feet or 3,000 square feet. But that's really where the market is now, to be able to get into sometimes 18 by 60 that's really nice, got some knotty pine in it and some, decent floor and the appliances that's necessary, yet affordable.
Right. As
a shed or a shed to house, which is some of what we see on Facebook and things like that. And do you think that's just looking for affordable housing when it boils down to it?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head a while ago. People have this concept of tiny house. They don't understand the little small house that's on a trailer. That's not what they want.
Yeah.
They're looking for something affordable.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going for. They're calling it a tiny house when it's, really not a tiny house. They just want something they can afford. That, people want something around the $500 a month range, and there's just not a lot of that out there right now.
Yeah, and on top of that, you're kind of seeing like this I can do it myself mentality. Do you guys ever get any do-it-yourselfers come in here that tell you how to run your business or how to build your sheds or what makes it, I could do that cheaper?
Well, I think we see some of that, people come and buy a building with the intentions of finishing it out themselves, and it ends up being harder than they figured.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think a lot of times the skill set's there. It's just, it gets to a point where it's kind of like, well, we'll deal with what we got. Definitely when I sold, experienced some of that, and I almost kind of felt like I knew it. You can never really guess, completely 100% correct, and that's why it's a struggle for a salesperson to sell something through finance or rent-to-own, and it's like, gosh, I don't know. I just don't. They're telling me they're going to do this, but I just don't feel like they have the skill set. So I'd try to ask them qualifying questions to figure out a little bit more about what they knew. And I think one couple, I even had some leftover insulation and took it over to them and just checked on their progress, tried to encourage them and that kind of thing. And unfortunately that came back, after about 6 months, because they just, I wonder, this is kind of twofold. John, Mark, take whichever you guys want to take this, but is there potential for the company to kind of offer training for a do-it-yourselfer? And contrary to that, is there room for shed builders to kind of create some trade educational classes for college students or those who are looking to avoid college but go into the trade? If I'd have found builders like you guys to work for whenever I was 18, I'd have been in heaven. Unfortunately, everybody I had the potential to work for was roughnecks and, didn't look like the best career choice at the time. But to find a good Christian organization to be able to work with and work alongside and learn from, seems like that would have been good. Is there potential to do either one of those?
I'm sure there is, but I don't think I'd have the answer.
It's not going to be your ball game.
Yeah, huh? Well, you remember what I said. I'm the doer type.
Yeah.
So.
I'll say, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about framers and how the Hispanics, are coming into the country, and they're the ones building the houses now. And I think a lot of that goes back to there's always been this push, especially for my generation, college.
Right.
And folks are finding out now that college degree isn't necessarily for everybody. And there's so much money to be made in trades, and it's turning out to be valuable to be able to do certain things such as build or know how to do electrical work or plumbing. Because what I'm hearing now, pretty much everybody I know is looking for somebody to do something. Whether it's somebody to come in and cut a tree down, somebody to come in and build them this, somebody to come in and do plumbing work, somebody to come in and do drywall work. They can't find anybody because the people that are doing it are so booked up that there's just not enough people out there that are in the trades to keep up with all the demand.
it seems like it'd be really cool if the shed industry could kind of corporately come together in some kind of capacity to work with trade schools, those that are, I mean, I see local schools, high schools all the time building sheds. I know they've done that in our community, both in Paducah and Metropolis, where they're trying to teach. And I could only imagine some of these kids are saying, hey, college ain't for me. It's not what I want to do. I'd love to be able to learn how to do this, but I need somebody to take me under their wing and sort of show me while I can still, afford to live on learning this until I can expand my craftsmanship. One thing that we heard during COVID was we're out of inventory and I can't find builders.
Right.
I can't get people here who know how to do the work or willing to stay, or they get a paycheck for the week and then they're out of here. See you later. Have you guys dealt with any of that?
Well, I think if you wanted to pay them enough money, you could always find someone.
Yeah. I don't know what the alternative is just right off the top of my head to fix that. But it seems like as a community, we could come together to maybe kind of help do some of those things. Where's Weaver going? Tell me where Weaver Portable Buildings is headed to. Big things. You want to see growth. You want to move in Kentucky and beyond, and just service customers in multiple states. What's sort of the end view here?
Well, I like Kentucky and Tennessee, but I don't know what the future holds, if we'll go to other states or not. I mean, there's plenty of work here and a lot of untouched places to crawl into and, that type of thing. But, there'll be new products, I'm sure, with sales being a little slower, downtime, and time for research and expansion into those different products. I'm sure that'll be some you'll see. The plant I have here, we're only using 50% of its space right now, so I have tremendous growth space. So growth will be our main objective, definitely. Yeah,
tons of potential here. You've got the market for it. You've got the capacity for it in growth here. Will you adventure into other things? You think you'll stick with sheds? You think this is kind of...
Primarily. We roll form our own metals, so carports could be on the table.
Hey, be very cool. The carport market and the shed market are very different, but they're very connected. I always like to tell people, for every time I fuss about customer service in the shed industry, I can fuss 10 times faster in the carport side. So it seems like the guy who figures it out and does a good job. A lot of it's really just consumer communication. It seems like communicate with the people. They're going to be excited about still getting their carport. They just really need to be communicated with instead of 5, 10, 15, 20 weeks going in between.
A lot of carport companies struggle to speak English.
Well, very good point. Very good point. Language barrier. Need to potentially hire somebody to be the face for that communication sector or whatever it is. But hello, shed seller. Do you feel like some days you are on an island trying to navigate through the complexity of perfecting your shed sales process? For years, the shed seller has often had the do the best you can standard. At Shed U, we want to help you make doing the best you can more than guesswork with a proven shed sales process. Shed U was created for you, the shed seller, and aims to help you, the shed seller, learn the best techniques for selling sheds. How do we do that? Elements of Shed University include sheducation you deserve as a shed seller, such as sales process management, lead follow-up, and sales script development. But wait, there's more. Attending Shed U is double the fun, because after you attend Shed U on January 23rd and 24th of 2024 at the Knoxville Convention Center, you can attend the Garage Shed Carport Builder Show on January 24th and 25th. That's right. All registrants for Shed U receive complimentary admission to the GSCB show, which includes even more educational opportunities. If you have been wanting to improve your shed sales process for yourself or your sales team, Be sure to attend Shed University, the obvious choice to grow your shed sales. At Shed University, class is now in session. You told me that you had bought your own row former, and that just kind of came with originally wanting to do your roofing.
Right.
So that give you the thought or the idea to maybe focus on metal or just metal buildings, I guess I should say, not on-site built, but portable. I guess you guys offer some of that. LP, kind of a primary thing that you guys deal with now, wood buildings, whether it's LP or not. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but wood buildings seems to be a lot of what I see on the lot.
Right. We do metal sided buildings and LP sided.
Yeah, I would definitely think that you have room to grow. Excited to watch you grow.
Well, it's always a challenge because if you grow your dealer network too much, you can't keep up on the manufacturing side. If you grow your manufacturing too fast, you got to hurry up, expand your dealer network. So you got to have a fine balance and grow them all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's where the overpromising and under-delivery comes from, is companies do that from time to time, just in growth mode. Grow. But if you overpromise, those customers get frustrated. So you're giving away opportunity for your competition there in that way. Marc, what do you hope to see, man? What 2 years into it now, and GM and running the place and taking care of all these dealers, and what's sort of your thoughts, man? You came up from Clarksville, so you kind of got away from the rat race there and the city to a more country area.
Oh yeah.
What do you hope to see, man? What's like your goals here?
I mean, I'd like to see us just continue to grow, just grow our manufacturing, grow our dealers, and just continue to make fine quality buildings. I mean, I've got a vested interest in this place. I work here, so I'm gonna do whatever I can to make that happen. And I'm not gonna let him down because he's the boss and he's the owner. But I think we're going to continue to grow. I've got a good feeling about that.
Will you continue to expand in sort of an online venture? You feel like that's something that, as a GM and as somebody who's in that kind of that marketing capacity, do you feel like it's just going to continue to climb to new heights? Or?
Absolutely, because I mean, it seems like we have three kinds of customers. We have the kind that you can call them tire kickers. The kinds that they want to come in there and they just want to see what you got. Then you got the kind that want to come in here and see exactly what you got, see exactly how it's made, ask you 300 questions about a shed, and then they're going to buy that shed. Or if it's not the right color, maybe they're going to change something about it. And then we've actually had several customers that have never set foot on this lot, that never saw the shed. They did everything online, and the first interaction they had with us was our delivery truck pulling up, delivering them a shed that they purchased strictly offline. Everything was done through telephone, email communications.
I saw your driver, or at least one of your drivers, on the way up here. I followed him out of Hopkinsville, so it was kind of a pleasant surprise to get here and say, yeah, well, I saw this guy, and I don't know if you know him. And they're like, yeah, he's our driver. Of course we know him. So,
well, speaking about drivers, let me interject here.
Okay.
So if you read my reviews online, every one of them mentions the driver, every single one. You never hear anything about the dealer hardly or, the manufacturer. It's always the driver, smiley face, that type of thing. And I think that's a good point, that's the last face the people see from your company. So, making sure that your drivers are professional has always been a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, I would. I couldn't agree more. It's the interaction's not over until it's completed, and it's completed whenever it's sitting there, and that's all service after the sale, right? Making sure that you hold good on your promise, and it's definitely key to have a good driver. And transportation's sort of a tricky thing in its own sense in the shed industry, and trying to manage where it's going. But you do have a lot of shed haulers that do a really good job of sort of communication, but then bettering their own craft. I mean, there's only about 5 or 6 barbecues going now across the states, you know, from Montezuma to Texas to Oklahoma and southern Indiana. I think the big one's coming up in North Carolina maybe next year, and probably missed about 3 or 4 others. But yeah, it seems like transportation in its own right holds a very special place in this industry. One of the guys I talked to that I interviewed very early on in the podcast was Tom Burbage from in England, and they talked about, you know, being able to build on site instead of building portable. And me and him just talked recently about a couple of different things and kind of talking about how they're getting into a little bit of that now. You're starting to see some of that where there's, you know, building the sheds and pre-making them or kitting them or whatever it is, and then bringing them to the home. But do you guys see much call for on-site builds? Is that something that's a very, very big thing here?
So we get asked that a lot. And I think a lot of that kind of goes back to your delivery driver and what kind of tricks he's got up his sleeve. So typically if I've got a customer that says, you know, hey, I'd like you to build it on site, and I'll start asking questions. Well, why do you want it built on site? He's like, well, I got a small fence opening. Well, how big? He's like, well, it's about 8-9 feet. I was like, send me a picture of it. So he'll send me a picture and I'll send it to Pete and I'll be like, hey, can you get a shed in here? He's like, yeah. So, you know, they do the up and over, and a lot of times where a customer had no clue that they were going to be able to get a shed in their backyard, here comes our delivery driver, and he straps his thing down and backs right in the backyard and sets a 12-foot wide shed through a 8-foot opening, and, you know, now we've sold a shed.
It's come a long way from listening to a lot of these guys talk about how things were done 20, 30 years ago.
With pipes and cables.
Pipes and cables and jacks and just, yeah, really just muscle in a lot of ways. I remember they delivered my brother's shed. He used to live next door, and they delivered it. This had been about 1998, and watched them struggle with, you know, trying to move it around on pipes and all that. And we ended up moving that shed sometime years later. We become the I can do it cheaper guy and did it ourselves and set that thing right on top of 6x12 utility trailer with angle iron, you know, just welded up on top of it. And I can't believe it held. I don't know how we did it. Tires were flat driving all the way to my father-in-law's, and it looked like a rodeo. He tried to pull it off with the tractor. I thought to myself, after knowing all these people in the shed industry and now the shed hauling side of that, like, man, were we looking for trouble in comparison to today. And you see people that aren't in touch with the current pricing structure that's necessary to bring $100,000-$200,000 unit out there to move your building 60 feet. It's not about the 60 feet as much as it is about what it takes to do that comfortably, and have the knowledge to do it and the skill set to do it and the equipment to do it and the cost of all those things. It kind of blows my mind. Even sheds, 5 years ago, looking at the average price of a shed compared to now, goodness.
Well, we get a lot of phone calls here for people that want a building moved, and we'll price it or find out some information from them and give it to our delivery people and get back with them. And you hear that quite a bit. They're like, oh, my goodness, you know, and they hang up. But you know what? Most of them come back.
Yeah, of course. They need a professional that can take care of the job, and a lot of them find out that it's just not somebody out there that can do that safely and at the price point they think they can. That's just a real conversation, good one for haulers to have, and maybe we can have that whenever we go to the Southern Indiana barbecue here coming up pretty soon. Shed Expo's coming up. This episode might be out long after the expo's even gone already, or maybe before, I don't know. But, yeah, any final thoughts on the industry? Any final thoughts on Weaver and sort of just your message to your customer? What your message is to someone who would be looking at buying a Weaver portable building today? I'll let you go, Marc, because it seems like you're chomping at the bit.
I guess, basically, I guess the best way to say it is, you've always heard the golden rule. I try to do by what they call the platinum rule, is treat somebody better than I want myself to be treated. So when a customer comes in here, I'm going to do whatever I can to try to make them as happy as they can be. Sometimes we can only do so much, but we're really going to try to make sure that they're satisfied. And that's from the time they walk into the door until after that building is delivered to them. So we put a lot of emphasis on customer service and making sure people are happy. And we've actually sold a lot of buildings just by word of mouth from people. I've got one lady in Clarksville that sold, she bought 2 buildings from us, and she had, I think, 4 other family members come in and buy buildings from us. We have that customer appreciation program. So she wound up making I think $500 off of us, because every time somebody come in here and buy a building, and we're talking about brand new buildings, cash money, we're handing them out a card, $100, to the customer. So word of mouth goes a long way in treating your customers, better than I want to be treated is one way to make that happy.
Always heard the golden rule, never heard the platinum rule.
I heard that not long ago. The platinum rule: treat people better than you want to be treated.
It's pretty
yourself.
nice. That speaks. It definitely preaches, and it go a long way in terms of customer service vision. Marc, John, I really like your sheds. I want to take a look at them. I want to at least go out here and check out this building, setting up on this pedestal out here. I think it's very cool what you guys have done. You've got a presence here in Western Kentucky that I think only has potential to grow even further. Certainly wish you absolutely tons of success in everything that you do. Appreciate you being willing to sit down, and it's been a little time in the making here getting together, but we finally knocked it out. And it's on to Michigan next week for us, and lots of cool folks up there that we're looking to interview. And really want to say thank you guys for continuing to listen. March was 2 years, so we're coming up on, seems like 2.5 years, already making plans for hopefully a 5-year vision for the podcast. I don't think that I'm trying to do too much, trying to focus on just that. And we're busy, man. We're like you guys. We're busy. We're just loving the opportunity to meet good people and talk about their product. And if there's any way that we can help you guys do that more, put you in connection with anybody or anything, more than happy to do that. But probably more than anything, just wishing you lots of success in all your endeavors. I think you got a really cool product and a really cool team here. Absolutely beautiful shop to build in. And I'm proud to know you and call you friends. So
we're glad to have you and appreciate your work that you do in connecting the shed industry together.
It's been a joy, man. It's been an absolute joy. And as long as God's got me on that path, I'll continue to follow it until he takes me off. And
That's right.
If for some reason he changes that on me, then I'll go kicking and screaming probably, because it's been such a good process. But I enjoy what we're doing right now and don't see a reason to stop it. Guys, I'm a fan of prayer. I believe that this country needs prayer, and I believe that it's okay to live. I heard you guys probably heard this before. If you were ever accused of being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? And for that reason, that's why I believe in talking about our ministry and our faith on the podcast, even if some people say it's better to stay away from the politics and the religion. I say, well, I don't know, maybe you're right on the politics, but still want to honor our Lord and Savior. So if you guys don't mind, I'll say a prayer and we'll get out of here.
Absolutely.
Lord, thank you for this day and this opportunity, new fellowship, new friends, and the fellowship that we had here today. Thank you, God, for the meal that we had today. I ask that you'd bless those folks, and just ask that you'd watch over not only the industry, but that you'd watch over the vision for Weaver Portable Buildings here, and that you'd bless them, seek them, and show them favor in all that they do. Lead us, guide us, and direct us in each and every day, and we thank you. Give praise to your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being on today. Sure. Means a lot.
Thank you.